serious, Redditors who witnessed a murder, what is your story? Pop pop pop. Fireworks on Halloween. That's weird, but whatever. Pop pop pop. Oh, it's someone dead in a car. I should call 911. For me, the surprising thing was just how anticlimactic the experience was. It was just surreal. I don't know if they ever caught the guy, but it was a drug-related murder. The murderer was in the car with him, so it was probably someone the victim trusted. When I was 6, my family went to see Sesame Street on Ice downtown. When we were leaving, a little girl my age was struck by a van and dragged across the parking lot. I remember the mother jumping on the windshield screaming at the driver while the van was still moving. My mom was a nurse and was helping until the ambulance arrived, but she was already dead. I can still remember the screams and lifeless body of that little girl. This was over 30 years ago. Obviously a lot of lead up to the story, but I'm not going there. My girlfriend was taking her dog for a walk while I got showered for work. I'm in the bathroom when I hear voices coming from outside. I look out the window, and to my horror there is my girlfriend talking to her abusive stepfather, who is standing about 5 feet away from her. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I knew it wasn't good. Stepfather raises his shotgun, shoots my girlfriend in the face, then shoves shotgun under his chin and pulls the trigger. Murder-suicide. Life's never been the same for me since. Lots of messages, so I wanted to say this. Thank you all for the support. It was 20 years ago, and though I'll never get over it, I can live with it. It took nearly 2 years before I came to realize there was nothing I could have done to stop it. I will never forgive her family for knowing what that man was doing to her, and they did nothing about it. I'm not really good with words, but I wanted to thank everyone for the kindness and support. At a pub about 2 years ago. Large group out the front arguing. Then a guy got blindsided and punched in the side of the head. The guy that hit him sprinted off into the darkness. The guy went down and never got up. His wife watched it happen and was trying to get him to wake up while the fighting and arguing continued. 30 minutes go by and guy hasn't moved since being punched. Bar staff have been doing CPR on him for about 15 minutes before emergency services finally arrive and continue. Turns out he was brain dead on impact. They kept him alive somehow until the morning, but turned life support off the following afternoon. The guy was 46 at his local bar and got killed. Heaps shit thing to see. I'll never forget that night. The guy that hit him was 19, got charged with murder, and is in jail as we speak. Saw my neighbor murdered in cold blood in my own driveway. My neighbor was helping his lady friend escape a very abusive relationship. Lady's ex hunted her down like a dog. Saw my neighbor walking back home with her after they went to get food for his kids. Heard 3 loud pops. I ran outside to find her screaming and him blown out of his shoes and into my driveway. He had a hole in his chest big enough to put my fist in. There was nothing I could do to save him except sit with him and hold his hand while I prayed for him to pass quickly. I'll never forget that night. 48 hours later I broke the lease on my house and moved in with my boyfriend, who lives in a much safer borough. You were an awesome neighbor and a wonderful father, Kane. You're certainly missed. When I was 10, my uncle murdered my mom's boyfriend at our house. It wasn't in the house, but he chased him through our house and killed him outside in front of the house. It really destroyed a part of our family as well as relationship between my mom and grandmother. It was 30 years ago, and I'm only one alive besides my uncle that was there that night. I wanted to thank everyone for the kind words and the questions. Kinda therapeutic to talk about. I was standing at a crosswalk. The guy next to me started walking. It was pre-dawn, and without looking so did I. The guy behind me grabbed my collar and yanked me back to the sidewalk. I spun around pissed off. The guy in front of me got hit by a car speeding through the intersection. I freaked out and called 911, but the guy died before the ambulance got there. The guy that pulled me back was gone. White guy, sunglasses, tan coat. Guy that got hit was fit as hell, wearing a grey windbreaker. I was 16 driving down the highway in the passenger seat of my mum's car, about 3:30 p.m. Traffic came to a complete halt and we were in the right-hand lane. So as we are creeping along, a semi-truck appears on the shoulder of the highway, door swung wide open. As we move past, there is a trail of blood down the doorstep onto the concrete and then leading about 20 feet further down the road. As we crept further, the trail of blood ended with a man lying face up completely covered in blood. There were no police or ambulances there yet. This was on a highway in the suburbs of a major metropolitan area in the US, so plenty of people saw before the scene was taken hold of by emergency services. Turns out the truck driver had a partner with him. They got into an argument and the passenger stabbed the driver like a dozen times and then escaped. The murderer was caught about an hour and a half away, one state over, 2 days later. I have to imagine that I was about 5 minutes behind the truck pulling over because the police can be in that spot in about 30 seconds. Being in the passenger seat in the right lane of the highway, I was about 10 feet from the body. Haunting image. Saw my friend get shot in the head and died a few minutes later during a crossfire between her oldest brother and the police. Was very heartbreaking. I still miss her 22 years later. We were playing on a field next to her house and her brother was watching us. He pulled a gun out, started shooting as soon as he saw the police. I didn't think this would get a lot of attention. Thank you for all the awards and all the happy cake days, for the ones who post it on here. For some reason I cannot see them on the post, but thank you. Sorry if I have not replied to everyone. I was around 8 to 9 years old and we were in a vacation village. While we were doing checkout with my family, my father was at the desk. While we were waiting at the lobby couches, an argument broke out between two guys who were at the lobby bar. I actually don't know what it was about, because it was in another language. One of the guys grabbed a bottle, smashed it, and attacked the other one, hit him in the neck. That guy fell on the floor, and there were blood all over the place. My mother closed my eyes after that, and took us out, while other people get involved. Years later I've learned that guy lost his life. In the parking lot of a strip mall in Washington state, a guy walked into a jewelry store and did an armed robbery. Plainclothes security guard waited until the robber exited and shot the robber in the back. I was in a car and I didn't hear the shot, but I did see him fall and some shoppers gathering around his body. We drove by slowly to see if help was needed. When I saw how fast the pool of blood was spreading, I pretty much knew he would not survive. Worked at a skating rink in the late 80s/early 90s. I was in my late teens. It was Sunday soul night session. Very crowded. About 600 that night. As we were trying to clear the parking lot after closing, gunfire erupted between two gangs. Everybody hit the deck while the shootout happened. A 12-year-old girl panicked while coming from inside and started running. She ran into the crossfire and took one to the head about 6 feet away from me. Killed instantly. Here https://www.newspapers.com/clip/35,042,768 Scatterhaven murder/ is the article about the rink itself being a magnet for problems. I've seen people die in combat since, but being a little girl is what haunts me about that one. Was walking home one day and saw a couple arguing. The dude started walking off away from the girlfriend's car, and apparently she was not happy with that. She proceeded to get in the car and wait about 5 minutes till he was way off down the sidewalk. I was walking on the opposite side of the road as him, and all of a sudden I see a blur and he goes flying like a rocket. She must have been going at least 60 miles per hour. He flew through the air and hit a tree. Died instantly. The women then screamed out the window at his body and drives away. There was blood smeared all over the crumpled hood, and I'll never forget the sight of his contorted body at the base of the tree, almost folded in half. I had to talk to the police, and within the hour they caught her at a car wash, trying to clean the blood and chunks off the hood and grill of her car. I was 16 at the time. For those of you concerned, thank you. I actually did have to see a therapist for a few months after. I'm doing very well right now. However, I don't think I'll ever fully get over it. It's one of those things that always sticks with you. Was at a bar. Couple guys got into an argument. The whole thing subsides. Then a few hours later one of them leaves. As the guy is leaving, the other guy he was arguing with earlier runs outside and punches him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Only other time I've seen someone die was on the highway, not murder here. Guy jumped off a bridge I was driving under, had a rope tied off and hanged himself. Got smashed by a truck before he died though, caused a really big mess. Hell, maybe the rope broke his neck before getting plowed into. IDK. Was going to work one day when a van hit a cyclist. Saw the person fly through the air, looked like a mannequin. I kept talking to the body, but with blood coming from his ears, I knew he was dead. Unfortunately they never released the name of the victim. I would have liked to have visited the grave. Some of the other witnesses were messed up, but I was, and still am, okay with it. I read that one's hearing is the last thing to go. If I'm ever in that bad situation again, I will talk more conversationally. I saw a few in Mexico. The most memorable one was the first one I saw while I lived there. I was cleaning out a house with some buddies of mine. A guy was walking down the block. We heard gunshots. I looked out the window and there was that same guy laying out on the sidewalk. A black pickup truck sped by. I think there were 4 guys on back, all with bandanas covering their faces, all with guns in their hands. The thing that stuck with me is they all looked younger than me. I was 22 at the time. According to the paper that was released right after he was from out of town and likely they mistook him as someone else, he was 17. His blood was left on the streets for days. One of my friends said he heard 14 shots, but I only heard 6. I have the whole experience written down as it was so foreign to me. This was in Altamirano. I used to stay up late at night trying to think of what kind of life would lead those guys to do a drive-by like that. I also wonder about that 17-year-old. I'm sure he had family visiting there. Used to work at a movie theater. I would change the sign near the road in the middle of the night. I saw a taxi pull up to the bus stop. It stayed there for quite some time. That's what caught my attention was how long it was there for. Saw a dude get out and quickly walk away. A week later I was changing the sign again, and I hear a voice below asking me to come down. After he showed me his badge I obliged, and he asked if I had seen anything weird the week before. I replied, only that a taxi had sat there for a while and a guy got out. I had to then go look at lots of mugshots. Turns out I was the sole witness to some poor bastard's murder without even realizing it. Wish I had a better look at the guy, so I could get him some justice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to consider the idea to maybe think about potentially subscribing. Peace.